Now, as students of knowledge, people like Al-Imam Muhammad bin Idris al-Shafi'i radiallahu anhu are our role models, meaning the ulama of the Salaf, of the pious predecessors. He states, Al-Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu, that if I was given the task to peel an onion, I would never have memorized a mas'ala, a discussion of fiqh. Why did he state this? Because distraction of the mind is something which impedes study. When a student is in his early stages of studying the religion, if he is distracted, then he will never achieve the goal, the end goal, the desired goal of his endeavors, his efforts in studying. So distraction can come in many forms, when a student can be distracted by so many different things. Now, of course, studying in a Jamia or in a madrasa, there are many things that can help you in focusing to attain those goals. One of those is the environment, that if you have an environment of fellow students, teachers who are encouraging, and a library, as well as less distractions like entertainment, meaning a person does not have access to entertainment, or in some cases the smartphone. If students of knowledge should not have a smartphone, they should have a simple phone, because if they have a smartphone, they will be distracted by so many different things. But even after a person focuses on his study, some of you may have been forced to study from home. If you fall into that category, sometimes in my classes I mention to the students, place a silver spoon on your book so I know that you're being forced to study. Why a silver spoon? When a person's forced to marry from Pakistan, in this country, if you're going through the airport, what do they make you do? Place a silver spoon in your bag. When the customs will open your bag, they'll see a silver spoon, they'll take you aside. Why? Because the person is being forced. But if you're being forced to study, you would have to realize that, is there an interest in this subject? Meaning what we call dars-e-nizami. Is there an interest for your future in this subject? The answer is yes, because this subject, if completed, will enable you to access the books of hadith and the commentaries of the Quran, that you will be directly able to comprehend. When we say قال الله وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Allah said and His Messenger said, where did they say this? In the Quran and the Ahadith. So you'll have access to this. This is the end goal, that you will be able to directly understand the commentaries of the Quran and the commentaries on the sayings of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyone who studies hadith will realize that every subject is contained within the works of hadith. Every subject a person would want to understand is contained within the works of hadith. Likewise, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal. Every subject is contained within Al-Quranul Kareem. And the knowledge contained within Al-Quranul Kareem is endless. So if you are forced to study, because this of course has a negative effect. Living in the UK, we have observed in the past that some students may have been forced by their parents to do Hifzul Quran, memorize Quran. Others may have been forced to study in a madrasa. But once those children reach maturity, they escape the madrasa and then they go to another extreme in living a secular lifestyle. So any of you who have been forced to come to madrasa or jamia should not feel like this. You should not feel that you are being forced to study. No, you should comprehend why are you studying this, and change, as is emphasized, that the niyyah, the intention is important, that the intention should be correct. The stages of your study tend to be four marahil, four stages. Of course, the course has been shortened to 5 years, I think, here, 6 years. But the marahil, the internal marahil, internal marahil, meaning the stages of your journey, are four. The first is being able to read Arabic text. This is your first step. This is the most difficult step in studies. In fact, most people drop out at this stage. How does a person overcome the first stage of being able to read Arabic text without what we call tashkil, the vowelization of the words, without recourse to supplementary material, directly being able to access works which do not have tashkil, the vowelization? How do we read those works? This is the very first difficult stage a person goes through. Most of the time you will notice those who are hufazul Quran, who have memorized Quran, they will proceed through this stage better than those who are not hufazul Quran. What does this show? That there is a blessing in the Quran, that the Quran gives you the ability to comprehend knowledge. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah ta'ala mentions in Tabaqatul Hanabila, a book compiled on the Tarajim, biographies of the Hanbali ulama up to his time. He mentions in the biography of one of them that when the teacher advised the student, the student was going abroad to study. So he said to him, give importance to the Quran, that if you give importance to the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place blessings in the remainder studies, that you will attain everything else. But if you abandon the Quran, you may attain some knowledge, but you will not attain everything. So the Hufaz al-Quran who are able to recite better than those who are not Hufaz al-Quran is because of the blessing of the Quran. They are able to get through the first marhala, the first stage of being able to recite Arabic text without vowelizing, because we are non-Arabs. This is a very difficult stage for students. Of course, all the madaris and jamiat first should include Arabic, conversational Arabic in the first year. Also, the best book to start with is Kitab al-Asasi. Kitab al-Asasi is because the Kitab al-Asasi starts with the conversational Arabic used in everyday Arabic. So the chapters start with fil matar, in the airport, how to fill in an immigration card when you enter a country, fil funduk, when entering a hotel room, fil bank, when you go to a bank, fil mat'am, in the restaurant. This is a conversational Arabic that we use in every day. Now, why is this important? I will mention that in the second marhala, the second stage. But in the first stage, the student needs to know things like which noun has a tanween and which noun doesn't have a tanween. It's very annoying when a student reads a text and he'll say daribu without al attached, and say daribu, and you say, is it mudaf? Why are you reading it without tanween? It's not mudaf, it's not ghair munsarif. Meaning comprehending just a simple thing, when does a noun have a tanween and when doesn't it have a tanween? Because as important as it is applying a tanween, annoying it is when a student doesn't place a tanween on a noun which has a tanween, a simple thing. But this is one thing which in the first stage a student should break down in his mind, knowing when there is murakkab idafi and murakkab tawsifi. So imagine reading الرجل العالم as murakkab idafi. Yes, it's annoying. Likewise, murakkab idafi, reading murakkab idafi, like kitabu zaydin as kitabun zaydun. So, and in the first stage, some of you are probably in the first year or second year. The people in the first, second year, sometimes even in the third and fourth year, students struggle with this. The reading of the Arabic does not improve because just recognizing a murakkab idafi and murakkab tawsifi, the distinction between the two, or knowing when this is mubtada and khabar. So imagine confusing mubtada and khabar with murakkab tawsifi, or mubtada and khabar with murakkab idafi, or knowing a fa'il and a fa'il, or fa'il, fa'il and maf'ul bihi. And then of course you go into the other stages of reciting Arabic text. There's one thing in this first stage, that is understanding Arabic expressions used in the classical books. Because what happens in the syllabus is that you are limited to a set amount of books. So in one subject, the set books are limited to certain expressions. So in Nahw alone, we have Sharh Miyati Amil, Hidayatul Nahw, Al-Kafiya, and Al-Fawaid al-Diya'iyah, known as Mullah Jami. Yes, these books. The expressions used in these works are sometimes the same expressions used again and again and again and again. So at the first stage, it's best to understand that in Sharh Miyati Amil, how many types of expressions are used. Like, for instance, when you did Sharh Miyati Amil, where the author states, Nahwu, marartu bi Zaydin, Nahwu bihi da'un, this expression, Nahwu. Later on, when you read Hidayatul Nahw or Al-Kafiya, you will not make the mistake of saying Nahwun, that would be a mistake. So this would mean that the early expressions in the earliest work are repeated in the other works. Like in Usul al-Fiqh, in Usul al-Shashi, the title of the book originally is Al-Khamseen, because the author was 50 at the time, even though they cannot even identify the author exactly. But in that work, the expressions of Aam, Khas, Mutlaq, and Muqayyad, and Mushtarak, and all these different discussions, Al-Mufassar, the expressions used in Usul al-Shashi are repeated again in Nur al-Anwar. The same expressions are, because these are the works they study in Usul al-Fiqh in the syllabus. Then in Nur al-Anwar, the expressions are repeated again in Muntakhab al-Husami by Husamuddin al-Ikhsikti, rahimallahu ta'ala. Then after al-Husami, in the additional works at-Talwih wa Tawdih and Musallam al-Thubut, even though the end books, the ones at the end of every subject, these works are like a tapestry, the end books. They all link together. Like Mukhtasar al-Ma'ani in Balagha of Sa'duddin al-Taftazani, rahimallahu ta'ala, and Al-Mutawwal by him also, commentaries to Talkhis al-Miftah. These are the works studied at the end in Balagha. At the end of Nahw, Al-Fawaid al-Diya'iyah, known as Mullah Jami, and then in Usul al-Fiqh, At-Talwih wa Tawdih ala Matn al-Tanqih, and Musallam al-Thubut. These all, and in Ilm al-Kalam, Al-Umur al-Amma. But Al-Umur al-Amma is just a chapter from Sharh al-Mawaqif. So I will mention this when we come to the other marahil. These works are all linked, interlinked, the style of those works. So this first stage is just being able to recite correctly. So how do you improve? Firstly, increase your recitation of Al-Quran al-Kareem daily. So how do we do that? Firstly, by reciting Surah Yasin every morning. In the night, Surah Al-Mulk, also Surah Al-Waqi'ah. So in the Jadwal, you already have Surah Al-Mulk. Do you have Surah Al-Waqi'ah in the Jadwal? Do they? No. So Surah Al-Waqi'ah, when I went to Malawi, because there is so much poverty in Malawi, the schools, madaris, some of them, Maulana Nabil, he has from Malawi, he has in his madrasa, he has one of the Hufaz will recite Surah Al-Mulk, and then another one will recite Surah Al-Waqi'ah. Why? Because the hadith states, من يقرأ الواقعة كل ليلة لم تصبه فاقة, that whoever recites الواقعة every night, لم تصبه فاقة, he will never be afflicted with poverty. Surah Al-Waqi'ah. Now some of you may say this is difficult to do. So some of you may say this is difficult to act upon every night. An easy way of acting upon this every night is when you recite your nawafil after Salatul Maghrib, when you pray your nawafil, add Surah Al-Mulk into the Sunan and the nawafil. So if you memorize Surah Al-Mulk and you memorize Surah Al-Waqi'ah, you recite the chapters of Surah Al-Mulk and Surah Al-Waqi'ah in the nawafil. This is an easy way. You will never leave the wird of reciting Surah Al-Mulk and Surah Al-Waqi'ah. So this is with the first marhala of being able to recite Al-Quran Al-Kareem abundantly. This is the first, meaning your class starts at 11, but you will realize that this advice you will not receive anywhere. That once you increase your recitation of Al-Quran Al-Kareem, your recitation of your Arabic text will also increase. And additional to that, making a simple distinction between murakkab idafi, murakkab tawsifi, jumla fi'liya, jumla ismiya, being able to know this is the first marhala. Second marhala is comprehension of what is being recited, understanding what is being recited. How you pass this stage is by understanding the phrases used in the works. So if you are studying Sharh Miyat Amil, understand the phrase that is being used. This is one thing. This is very essential. Second to that is, why do some people find the Darsi works difficult to study? Is because they have something known as elliptical mode, which is hadful ibara, which is what? Hiding some of the text. So the author may say something in 4 words or in a sentence. When the author states something in a few words or in a sentence, the student reciting the text is unable to comprehend what is the author intending to convey. But how do you understand this? The best way of doing this is by looking at the hawashi and referring to a teacher. Comprehension of Arabic expression. But how do you increase your comprehension at this stage? Is by increasing your reading. If you do not increase your reading of Arabic texts, you will never be able to comprehend even the works that you are studying. Minimum, while you are in Al-Jamia, minimum, you must read at least 100 Arabic books, meaning in 6 years. It's not too much. In 6 years, 100 Arabic books in 6 years, 100 titles. What type of titles? For instance, Sharh Sudur is recited it's even published by the Maktaba. Sharh Sudur by Al-Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti rahimahullah. Recite that in Arabic. Sharh Sudur is not a difficult book to read. Riyadus Salihin, this may even be in your course. But like this 100 books, meaning if someone is a graduate and they say they are an alim of the religion, and aside from the syllabus books, they haven't read at least 100 titles in Arabic, in reality they are not considered an alim of the religion. So 100 titles of Arabic books. This will increase your comprehension of your Darsi books also. So 2 points on this second marhala and the second stage. The second stage, which is what? The stage of comprehension of the Arabic text. How do you increase this comprehension of the Arabic text? By reading Arabic works, 100 titles, which inshallah in my list of 100 titles, I will place this on Facebook soon. The titles will be placed for students of knowledge. If you read through those 100 titles, like Sharh al-Sudur, like other works, this will not only help you as a Madani, it will also help you as a Muballigh, because you will be able to lecture on a variety of subjects. So this second stage is the stage of comprehension. This happens during third year, fourth year, and fifth year, generally, with the stage of what? Comprehension. How many of you are in the first 2 years? Yes? And the rest of you are in second and third and fourth. In the second, third, and fourth year, this is the stage of comprehension, of comprehending what you are reading. If you do not have comprehension, that is because you are not looking at the phrases used in the Arabic that are repetitive in each subject, and likewise you are not looking at the elliptical method of the Arabic text, meaning like Al-Husami, Muntakhab al-Husami. If you look at Al-Husami, the text is short. Why is it short? Because the author is hiding much of what he wants to state. So because of this, some of the people may find these works difficult to grasp. And this is why, one reason why some of them think these books are difficult to grasp is because of the lithographic editions they have. Lithographic editions are what? The handwritten editions. And because of that, the typeset, or not the typeset, the handwriting is so difficult to read that people think the work is difficult. But now we have tandeed, which is typesetting, that the works are all typed. And the reading of the Arabic is easier. But the two things that you need to work on at this stage, Arabic expressions and understanding when there is something mahdhuf in the text. Like some of you must have come across in the text when they mention daf'u dakhli al-muqaddar, repelling a hidden question, and they say وَتَقْرِيرُهُ, its explanation is the following. These daf'u dakhli al-muqaddar that come in Al-Kafiya and Mullah Jami and even in Nur al-Anwar, they are the things that people find difficult. Do not concentrate too much at this stage with i'tiraz. The author said this and there's i'tiraz on this, and if you concentrate too much on this, you will end up studying the i'tirazat and not studying the book itself. Third stage is comprehension of the book. Now there is one thing is being able to recite the text. The second stage is being able to comprehend the text. The third stage is being able to comprehend the book. So for instance, if someone asked you and inquired, how do we understand, how did you understand Nur al-Anwar? You need to know basic things like Nur al-Anwar, the original text, the matn. The original text is what? Al-Manar. Who is the author of Al-Manar? You mentioned Al-Nasafi. Is he different to Umar al-Nasafi, the author of Al-Aqaid, or is he the same as the Nasafi of Kanzu Daqa'iq? Meaning being able to know which Nasafi it is. What date did he pass away in? Then while you're studying Nur al-Anwar, reading Al-Manar alone, the matn, reading the matn separate to Nur al-Anwar as individually. Then knowing Nur al-Anwar is a commentary by Mullah Ahmad Jiwan rahimallahu ta'ala, knowing why did he write the book, and then knowing where the original text is, Al-Manar, and knowing where the commentary is. Like this Sharh Miyati Amil. Miyatu Amil is by whom? Abdul Qahir Al-Jurjani. Sharh Miyati Amil is by whom? The commentary is by Mullah Abdul Rahman Al-Jami. By whom? So Sharh Miyati Amil, when you're studying this, you should know that the text itself, the mat, is by whom? Abdul Qahir Al-Jurjani. The commentary who is discussing to you, you know, when at the beginning, Alhamdulillahi ala na'ma'i shamilati wa ala'il kamilati, all this is written by whom? Mullah Abdul Rahman Al-Jami, the Sufi scholar Al-Jami. He is also the author of Al-Fawaid Al-Diya'iyya, the commentary on Al-Kafiyah. Knowing this is important. Then, meaning knowing the book is important. This is what I mean by knowing the book. And the fourth marhala, the fourth stage, is knowing the subject. So one thing is knowing the book. I know Usul Shashi, I know Nurul Anwar, but do I know Usul al-Fiqh as a subject? How would I learn Usul al-Fiqh as a subject? This is where my point about reading around, that you do not stick only to the books of the syllabus, you go and read around on that particular subject. Like Nahaw, you studied Nahaw Mir, Sharh Miyati Amil, then Hidayatul Nahaw, Al-Kafiyah, and then Al-Fawaid Al-Diya'iyya, the 5 main books within the Dars Nizami. After studying these 5 books, a person should read around the subject, like Al-Ashbah wa Nazair of Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, or the works of Ibn Hisham, like Awdahul Masalik, and the Shuruh of Al-Fiyah by Ibn Malik, the commentaries on Al-Fiyah. This is what we call a takhassus, specialization in a subject. So from your 5 to 6 years of study, you select a subject of takhassus that you specialize in that subject, and then you read around that subject. These are the 4 marahil, 4 stages which every student of knowledge should go through. But there is something additional which I wanted to mention. That is that you should also improve on your English. So meaning as a graduate, a Madani graduate of Dawat Islami, representing Dawat Islami, but really you are not only representing Dawat Islam, you are representing Islam. Yes, you are representing Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. When you become a preacher or a scholar, a caller to Islam, the country that you live in, you must have good comprehension of everything within that country, or the culture of that country, the education of that country. How do we attain that? If someone is studying in a madrasa, I said to you, in 6 years, 100 titles, Arabic titles. Some of you may think this is incomprehensible or something unachievable. The response is that the 100 titles, not every book is 500 pages, and not every book is difficult to read. There may be some books that are voluminous and may take you time to read, like Shaykh al-Islam Mustafa Sabri's Sharh al-Mawqif al-Aqli wal-Ilm, an example, a voluminous book of 2,000 pages. But some of those books will be rasail, short books to read. But likewise, you must read 100 English books while in madrasa. 100 English books. Why? This is to improve your vocabulary and knowledge of the world around you, the society around you. And of course, within that will be some Islamic books. Like for instance, recently I gave a lecture on At-Tibbu Nabawi, and I recommended the book of Al-Imam Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, the prophetic medicine. A good book to read. But some of those books will be books on broader subjects written by non-Muslims. Because if a person is saying that they are intending to become an alim of the religion, a scholar of the deen, they must have comprehension of the society around them. And they must relay the message of Islam in the tongue of those people. This is essential for ulama of the religion. If you relocated to another country, you must learn the language of that country. Imagine an alim of the deen relocates to China for 10 years. Dawat Islami has branches in China also. So if they send you to China and they place you in a community that communicates in Mandarin, and you stay there for 10 years and you do not learn Mandarin or Cantonese or any of those languages that they speak in China, that is very shameful. That a scholar of the religion who relocates to a different country, if you relocate to Europe, you must learn the languages of Europe. But most of us are born in the UK. Some of us are even fourth generation in the UK. Meaning I would be third generation, my children are fourth generation in the UK. Many of you are also second or third generation in the UK. Some of you may even be fourth generation. If we are third or fourth generation, we must understand how this country and the history of this country. So reading a book on British history, on the kings and queens and monarchs of England, does not contradict studying Dars-e-Nizami. Some people think like this. Reading the history of British colonialism does not contradict Dars-e-Nizami. Reading a book on the parliamentary system of the UK. I know Dawat Islami is ghair siyasi. Doesn't make you a politician reading a book on the subject. Because as a ghair siyasi organization, which is fine, because what Maulana Ilyas Qadri has achieved within Pakistan has strengthened Sunni Islam politically, without him being political. And that is fine for a Madani alim also. But imagine Dawat Islami has a representation of Madani ulama who must go to the houses of parliament, which is fine according to your principles, just to convey Islam. Because recently they met the Prime Minister of Pakistan just to convey Islam. When you go and you meet politicians to convey the message of Islam, when you are conversant with them, you would have to have a broad knowledge of how the parliamentarian system works, how the monarchy works, the history of the monarchy, some history that you are able to know that the current House of Windsor is originally a German household, and a bit of history, and being able to discuss with them. But if you cannot relate to them in any way, the effectiveness of your tabligh will be less. The effectiveness of your conveying of Islam will be less. So this is why it is essential that during your 6 years of studies, you read at least 100 books. Like recently, one brother gave me the book, The Anarchy, on the East India Company. When the East India Company, how they colonized India and Pakistan. Understanding these things is essential for every graduate of the madaris, or reading upon eschatology, the signs of end of times, Ashratu Sa'a. On that, in the 100 Arabic books, I mentioned Al-Isha'a li Ashrati Sa'a wal Imam Muhammad bin Abdi Rasul al-Barzanji is a must read. You cannot understand the age that we're living in the end of times, without understanding Ashratu Sa'a, the signs of the end of times. So how do you get that comprehension? By reading Al-Isha'a li Ashrati Sa'a wal Imam al-Barzanji rahimahullah ta'ala. And then a modern book, Al-Usasu wal-Muntaliqat of Shaykh Abu Bakr al-Mashhur. This book, it gives you context of Ashratu Sa'a in the modern age. This is an essential reading for every graduate of a madrasa. Because if you graduate and you've just limited yourself to the syllabus books, you will be unable to comprehend the world around you. If you, as a Madani graduate, you are called to Pakistan to do work, and you do not know Urdu, you must learn Urdu. Likewise, if a Madani comes from Pakistan to the UK, within a year they must know English. And within a year they must be able to communicate with people in English. This brings me to a final point regarding Arabic language. That every Madani graduate must be able to converse in Arabic, because if you meet ulama from the Middle East, how would you be able to converse with them? And the conversation cannot be limited to textbook style conversations. The conversation must be conversation which is in accordance with the idiomatic method of the people of that country, meaning how they converse. So this is regarding the final point. Of course, the Madani graduates are the future of the organization Dawat Islami. In fact, in my opinion, the lectures should all be given by the Madani graduates, because they comprehend the fiqh, study fiqh, jurisprudence, and the application of jurisprudence, study of al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya, al-Ashbah wa al-Nadha'ir. This is again in the 100 Arabic books. You should read works like al-Ashbah wa al-Nadha'ir by whom? Ibn Nujaym, rahimallahu ta'ala. A book that will open your mind. But the Madani graduates are not only the future of Dawat Islami, they are also the future of Islam. So the UK graduates, such as yourself, have an international role to play. How do you have an international role to play? You have an international role to play because the graduates from the UK are from a country which the language of which is the international language of the world. English is the international language of the world. Arabic is the international language of Islam. English is the international language of the world. Being graduates from the Darul Uloom of the UK should give you an international role in how Islam is conveyed in the world today. The doors of opportunity are opened. The knowledge that you will attain from the Jamia is a knowledge of Islam that must be conveyed throughout the world. So this, of course, your role is not limited to the confines of the Jamia or the confines of the organization of Dawat Islami. Your role is much more broad than this. So, and that will only be effective through your studies. That if your studies are correct, you will not only make the organization Dawat Islami more effective globally, you will also have an impact in terms of how Islam is conveyed in the world. So, of course, I do not want to impede on your class times, because your class times have started, but this was the short nasiha, words of advice I wanted to give. Maybe we can have a questions and answers.
Inshallah. So if any brothers do have questions, then don't hesitate. Like I said, it's an honor for us to host Shaykh Asrar sir.
I encourage you to seek knowledge.
So remember in 1997, 98, the first exposure to knowledge was when I went to Faisal Masjid in 96, and my father bought me some books, one on the Battle of Badr, another on the Doomsday, on the Shiratu Sa'a. I read those works, and then later on I've mentioned this on numerous accounts, associated with Dawat Islami also in the early days. And when they would reference works like Kanzul Ummal, work on Hadith, it was insufficient to read that being quoted in Urdu. That was insufficient for me. So that encouraged me to study. So when you remember in Fazail Sunnat, they have the chapter on Fazailul Quran. I think the first chapter is on, there was a work, they have Fazail Quran. Yes? I remember reading that, and some of the hadiths were being quoted in Urdu. Remember, it was very difficult in those days because being born here, have to learn Urdu and then translating that into English. It wasn't like in the 90s, it wasn't like how you have it now with English books. You could just open it up in English and read. But even when I acquired English translations of works, it was insufficient to read it in a foreign tongue. It was essential to learn the language of the Prophet ﷺ. So this was the early encouragement to study. That one of the main motivations was I would not want to be manipulated by anyone else who is misinterpreting the Quran and Sunnah. Yes? This was one of the early motivations. I would not want to be manipulated by anyone who is interpreting the Quran and Sunnah in a foreign tongue, in English or anything else. So that was the early motivation from 97 or 98 in going down the road of learning sarf tables, memorizing sarf tables, and then advancing slowly, progression. Remember one thing, you'll have to have patience in study as well. Some students lose patience and they drop out of the Jamia. Do not drop out because you need patience in your study also.
I'd like to ask you a question in regards to study skills. Students taking the knowledge from the page to memory, what sort of methods or techniques do you use?
So in the early stages, the method I used is when you're studying works like Nurul Idah. Nurul Idah is a book that has difficult expressions. The sentences in Nurul Idah are very difficult. So like when he mentions وَقَحْقَهَةُ بَالِغٍ, if you remember the ibarat, those things, nawaqidul wudu, those things which invalidate wudu, he mentions وَقَحْقَهَةُ بَالِغٍ يَقْظَانِ. You know, the ibara is very difficult for a beginner student when he mentions the mature person laughing out aloud. If he's awake and he can hear himself, meaning the sentence is very difficult construct. So memorizing mufradat, singular words, is the first step. How you do that is you have a notepad, a small notebook or a small notepad, and you write down the words that you do not understand. Like the Muqaddimah of Nurul Idah has very difficult words. You're writing down the mufradat. So you keep that a small notebook with you wherever you may go. Whenever an opportunity arises, you open up the notebook and you memorize the words, the mufradat. This is the first step. Memorizing vocabulary. If you memorize over 3,000 words, you will basically know Arabic. 3,000 words. To know a language is around 1,000 to 2,000 words. 3,000 should be minimum target. But like I said, the words are reoccurring in every step. So this is one way in the early stages, is memorizing mufradat by keeping a notebook on you, always memorizing the words. So if you're studying Hidayatul Nahaw, Sharh Miyati Amil, you do not know the words, write them down in a list and write down the correct English translation for those words. That's one method. Secondly, with memorization, if you need to memorize a passage, not everyone is gifted with a good memory. What you do is you read out the passage 70 times. Whatever you want to memorize, read it out 70 times. Once you have recited by looking 70 times, close the book, you will realize you've memorized the passage. A quick method of memorizing, 70 times. And thirdly, when you need to read, you must have no distractions. So when I said 100 books, of course you will find it difficult to read 100 books if you are always distracted with your smartphone or even with a basic phone. So I use a basic phone But even this basic phone can distract me. Yesterday I was looking at how many sent messages I have on this phone. That's over 16,000 sent messages. How many received messages? 24,000 received messages over a period of few months. A simple phone like this. So I deleted the counter now, promising myself that I will not allow my sent and I can't control the received messages. My sent messages, I will not allow them to exceed 1,000 over the next year. Why? Because how many distractions meaning if I am distracted with just a simple phone like this, how many hours of our time is going? Students of knowledge should not have Facebook. I did not have Facebook until 2015, and even now, and only then it was only because people were making fake Facebook pages on my name, so we had to make a Facebook page. Yes? But even now I do not administer the Facebook page. There is an admin for the page. I do not read the comments. I do not respond to the comments. Why do you need to respond to comments all the time on Facebook? So social media is a no-go for students of knowledge. If someone thinks this is impossible, I only got a phone after I got married. Yes? A simple phone. So why do students of knowledge need a phone? If you need to ring your parents, because your parents have rights over you. When I would go to Damascus, I would ring them once a month for 2 minutes. Yes? Place the 500 lira card into the phone box. In those times, the smartphones were not out. Ring them and say, I'm okay, I'm fine. They would say, do you need anything? I would say, maybe someone is coming next month. Please send this, and that's it. Yes? Now, why does a student of knowledge need a smartphone? So, to improve your studies, you cannot have social media accounts. You cannot be responding on controversial issues, especially if you're in Dawat Islami. Within Dawat Islami, the Madanis of Dawat Islami should not be involved in controversies, meaning controversies, political controversies or sectarian controversies, because that's the purpose of Dawat Islami is an organization that preaches Islam to the public without any controversy. This is how it should be. So, as a Madani or a student of Dawat Islami, you cannot use social media for controversy. You cannot embroil yourself in any controversy. This goes against the policies of Dawat Islami, which the Madanis. Remember, someone may say to me, "Why are you embroiled in controversy?" Remember, I didn't study in a Jamia, a Dawat Islami Jamia. If I had, I would stick to their policies. This is only the right thing to do for the students of the Jamia. So do not embroil yourself with social media. Find a quiet place and read. Now, one few tips on reading. Even Maulana Ilyas Qadri, Hafizahullah Ta'ala, mentioned some of these guidelines. If you guys listen to the Mudhakarat, even I listened to the Mudhakarat, and when I was younger, I would listen to the audio cassette Mudhakarat. You know, if you remember the TDK tapes, the cassettes, I would place them in my cassette player and listen to the Mudhakarat. Very beneficial. If you get your hands on the old cassette Mudhakarat, they've probably made them digital now. You probably can get them online. You'll realize the old Mudhakarat, they were more in depth. Some of the Mudhakarat they mentioned about reading. So do not read in a moving vehicle. Hazrat Saab mentions, do not read in a moving vehicle. Why? Because if you read in a moving vehicle, it's not good for your eyesight. Protecting your eyesight is essential for all the Madanis. Because your main hobby is reading. So the guidelines of reading. So Hazrat Saab mentions, if the car is moving, do not place, he doesn't tend to read as much in a moving car because it's not good for the eyesight. Additional points is that some of the books may be heavy. So what that does is it places strain on the back of the neck and on the shoulders. So do not hold heavy books. What to do? Get 2 cushions, place them on your lap, place the book on top of the cushions, closer to the eyes, and then you can sit down and read for hours. And you will have no strain on your neck, and no strain on your shoulders, and no strain on your eyes. Likewise, it's not haram to sit on a chair, because the Madanis, what will happen is your knees will... Today people drink fizzy drinks and have takeaways. This is of course a different issue for the Madanis, meaning, if you remember, Hazrat Sahib wrote a book in 2004. He released in October 2004 on Pet Ka Kufle Madina. Do you remember this?
Excellence of hunger.
Yes, The Excellence of Hunger. Now that book, even though it needs some updating, has it been republished? Every Madani should read that book, because people despise an alim with a big stomach. Yes? And of course, I don't need to guide you on those guidelines. If you have a murshid like Maulana Ilyas Qadri, you don't need guidelines on those type of things from me. You have those guidelines like Excellence of Hunger. There's so many other good guidelines you find from him. But going back to what I was saying regarding reading, you sit on a chair, because what will happen if you're drinking fizzy drinks and you're eating junk food? What will happen eventually to your knees? Your knees will give in. So sitting on a chair is not haram. So you sit on a chair and you place the pillows on the lap, you place the book, you make sure you have good lighting, never read in dim lights. So some students, when they start reading, they will use a mobile phone light or a lamp light. I would advise have read in a room with full light. Otherwise, in the long run, this will affect your eyes. So mobile phone, going back to mobile phone, if you're always on the smartphone, how will the light of the smartphone affect your eyes? Very badly. So those are a few tips that I can mention regarding studying, that you should read for hours. The main problem that students have is anxiety, ambivalence, and distraction. Anxiety, ambivalence, and distraction. Some may be suffering from desires also. These are distractions, all these things. These are the main things you're going to have to struggle against. Mujahadatun nafs.